It 34 years to catch the killer of Jessica Vance. When police finally cornered Pastor Ezekiel Thorne in November 2024, they expected a confession. They expected him to tell them where the body was buried. Instead, the 81-year-old minister sat in the interrogation room, leaned forward, and whispered 5 words that froze the blood of every detective watching: "I didn't kill her. I saved her." Thorne claimed that Jessica, the homecoming queen who vanished in 1990, was still alive. He said he had smuggled her out of state to a convent in New Orleans to save her soul. "She is living as a nun," he told them. Hidden in plain sight. Police rushed to the convent. And in a twist that defies belief, they found her. A woman matching the age progression photos perfectly. Living under a vow of silence. For exactly 1 hour, investigators thought they had witnessed a miracle. Then the DNA results came back from the lab. The case didn't close. It exploded. Because the woman in the convent wasn't Jessica Vance. She was Jessica's daughter. Born in 1991. Exactly 9 months after Jessica vanished. Which meant Jessica was pregnant when she disappeared. And the DNA proved that the father of that child wasn't a stranger. It was someone involved in the investigation. Someone who had been hiding in the police department for 3 decades. This case involves a betrayal so deep it will shake your faith in the justice system. We are about to unravel a 34-year-old knot of lies, religion, and police corruption. If you are the kind of person who believes the truth matters more than the headlines, and you want to help us shine a light on cases that deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button right now. You're joining a community that refuses to look away. Now, to understand how a pastor could fool an entire town and how a killer could hide behind a badge, we have to go back to where the nightmare began. Ocala, Florida. November 1990. This wasn't the Florida of South Beach neon or Disney tourists. Ocala was horse country, endless white-fenced farms rolling into the dense, shadowy sprawl of the Ocala National Forest. Locals called the summer humidity the blanket. A thick, suffocating heat that clung to your skin and made secrets stick. It was a different America. No cell phones. No GPS. If you wanted to find someone, you drove around and looked. And if someone wanted to disappear, they could turn off the main road, take a dirt path into those woods, and just stop existing. Jessie Vance was Ocala royalty. 17. Blonde hair, bright smile, the kind of laugh that made people turn around. She was the newly crowned homecoming queen and a straight-A student who dreamed of being a veterinarian. Her best friend later told reporters, Jessie didn't have a mean bone in her body. She'd sit with the kid eating lunch alone. Not for show. That's just who she was. But Jessie had a secret. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, friends noticed she was anxious. Distracted. She was sneaking out late at night, meeting someone she refused to name. On November 12, 1990, Jessie watched her dad's team win the homecoming game. She was still wearing her crown. She left the celebration early. She never made it home. The next morning, November 13, 6:47 a.m., a truck driver spotted a cherry-red Mustang on the shoulder of State Road 40. Engine still running. Headlights cutting through the morning fog. Driver's door hanging open. Inside was Jessie's purse, her keys in the ignition, and a half-empty Coke bottle. No blood. No struggle. No footprints. The car was 7 miles from her house. A 15-minute drive she never finished. The first officer on the scene was a 23-year-old rookie named Deputy Miller Mills at Coburn. He was a hometown kid, fresh out of the academy. He knew the family. He knew Jessie. Witnesses say that when Mills found that abandoned car, he didn't just look professional, he looked devastated. For the next 34 years, Mills Coburn would become the face of the investigation. He chased every lead. He kept the file on his desk long after the case went cold. To the town, he was a dedicated hero refusing to let a victim be forgotten. They had no idea how personal this case actually was. While Mills searched, another man stepped into the spotlight. Pastor Ezekiel Thorne. Church president. Boy Scout leader. The moral compass of Ocala. Thorne ran the BTK playbook, hiding in plain sight. He organized the search parties. He held Jessie's mother's hand at press conferences. He preached about hope and redemption while knowing exactly where the bodies were buried. Because of Thorne's help and the lack of forensic technology in 1990, the trail went cold. Jessie's parents died of broken hearts without ever knowing the truth. Flash forward to 2024. Deputy Mills is now Detective Mills. 61 years old. Dying of terminal lung cancer. With weeks left before forced retirement, he decided to try one last thing: genetic genealogy. He submitted a degraded DNA sample found on the steering wheel of Jessie's Mustang. 3 weeks later, the lab called. It was a direct match to Pastor Ezekiel Thorne. The arrest was swift. The town was in shock. But as Mills walked into the interrogation room to confront the monster, he had no idea that the trap he just sprung was about to catch him, too. The interrogation began at 2 a.m. Thorne sat perfectly still. Hands folded. No lawyer. Innocent people panic. They scream. They demand counsel. Thorne looked like he was waiting for a confession, but not his own. Mills slid the DNA report across the table. "We found your genetic material on her steering wheel, Ezekiel. We know you were there." Thorne didn't even look at the paper. "I touched the wheel because I drove her car that night," Thorne said, his voice impossibly calm. "But I didn't kill her. I saved her." This is where Thorne spun the lie that would buy him 12 hours of chaos. He told Mills that he found Jessie on the side of the road that night, hysterical. He claimed she had accidentally hit a homeless man with her car and killed him. She was 17, Miller. She was terrified. "So I made a choice. I staged her abduction to save her from prison. I drove her to a convent in New Orleans. She's been living there as Sister Mary Clarence ever since." It was a masterclass in manipulation. Thorne knew the police would have to check. Mills made the call to New Orleans PD, find Sister Mary Clarence. Verify her identity. Then, he waited. For 12 agonizing hours, there was a glimmer of hope. Could Jessie be alive? Had this whole nightmare been a misunderstanding? At 3:15 p.m., the phone rang. It was the New Orleans sergeant. He sounded shaken. "We found her, Detective. Sister Mary Clarence. She's real." Mills felt his chest loosen. But the sergeant continued, "We ran her prints. She's not Jessica Vance." "What do you mean?" "Detective, this woman was born in August 1991. She's too young to be Jessica." Then came the hammer drop. "But her DNA is a familial match. She is a direct biological descendant. Detective, the nun isn't Jessica. It's Jessica's daughter." In the interrogation room, Mills lowered the phone. He looked through the glass at Thorne. The pastor was watching him, a small, cold smile playing on his lips. The math hit Mills like a physical blow. Jessie disappeared in November 1990. The daughter was born August 1991. Jessie was pregnant when she vanished. Thorne hadn't saved Jessie. He had murdered a pregnant teenager to hide her condition, then stolen the baby and hidden her away in a convent to cover his tracks. Police immediately swarmed Thorne's property with ground-penetrating radar. This time, there were no lies about drifters or accidents. Underneath the foundation of an old garden shed, built by Thorne in 1992, they found a silver bracelet, JV, class of 91. 4 feet down, they found the skeletal remains of Jessica Vance. She had been buried in the backyard of the man who led her search parties. But as forensics bagged the evidence, Mills was back in the station, staring at a new DNA report. They had the baby's DNA. They had the mother's DNA, which meant they could identify the father. The lab had isolated the paternal DNA markers from the daughter found in the convent. Standard procedure, run it against the suspect. Mills looked at the report. Paternal match, Ezekiel Thorne, negative. Thorne wasn't the father. So why? Why kill her? Why go to such lengths to hide a pregnancy that wasn't his? Mills walked back into the interrogation room. The air felt heavy, electric. He sat down. "You're not the father," Mills said. "The DNA proves it." Thorne leaned forward. The mask of the kindly old pastor dropped completely. "I know I'm not the father, Miller. I never said I was." "Then why kill her?" Thorne's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't want to ask that question. Why did you kill her?" "Because if you run that girl's DNA against the department database, you're going to find a match." Thorne locked eyes with the detective. "You're going to find the 23-year-old deputy who couldn't keep his hands off a 17-year-old girl that summer. You're going to find a match to you." The room went silent. The truth washed over Mills, terrifying and absolute. Summer 1990. The rookie cop and the high school senior. The secret meetups behind the old mill. The promise to wait until she was 18. She had gotten pregnant. She must have confided in her pastor, or he had found out. Thorne continued, twisting the knife. "I didn't kill her because I wanted to. I killed her to clean up your mess." In 1990, a deputy getting a minor pregnant. You would have gone to prison. Your life would have been over. Thorne smiled. "I protected you, Miller. And for 34 years, I kept that child as insurance. As long as I stayed free, your secret stayed buried." Mills sat there, the weight of 34 years of searching crashing down. He hadn't just been hunting a killer. He had been hunting the consequences of his own actions. Thorne had blackmailed a ghost. He had held the moral high ground over the detective, knowing that if the truth ever came out, they would both burn. Mills stood up. He walked into the hallway. Outside, the station was celebrating. The news crews were setting up. "Case solved" flashed on the monitors. They thought Mills was a hero. He had two choices. He could bury the paternity test. Let Thorne go to prison for murder, stay silent, and retire with his legacy intact. Or he could tell the truth. He could admit that he fathered a child with the victim. He could admit that his misconduct provided the motive for her murder. He could destroy his reputation to ensure Thorne never walked free. Mills stared at his reflection in the glass. He thought about Jessie. 17. Scared. Pregnant. He had failed her in 1990. He turned around and walked back into the room. He unholstered his service weapon and placed it on the table. "I'm going to tell them everything," Mills said. "Every detail. Every mistake. And then I'm going to watch you die in prison." Pastor Ezekiel Thorne was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. Confronted with Mills' testimony and the DNA evidence, the untouchable pastor is currently being held without bond. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. His church stands empty. The community he fooled for 3 decades has scrubbed his name from their history. Detective Miller Coburn resigned 3 days later. In a press conference that stunned the state, he admitted to the relationship with Jessica Vance. Because the statute of limitations had passed, he faced no criminal charges. But his punishment was public disgrace. The hero detective was revealed to be a man who slept with the victim, a secret that arguably led to her death. He lost his pension, his reputation, and his friends. He spends his final days in a small apartment, waiting for the cancer to finish what the guilt started. The woman known as Sister Mary Clarence, Jess's daughter, declined all media requests. She left the convent and is reportedly building a quiet life under a new name. She never knew her mother. But now, she knows she was loved enough to be searched for. Jessie Vance was finally laid to rest in December 2024. 34 years late. Detective Coburn stood in the back of the cemetery, alone. He didn't speak. He didn't approach the grave. He just watched until the last shovel of dirt was thrown. This case forces us to ask a brutal question. Detective Mills solved the murder. He brought a monster to justice. But he was also the reason the monster struck. Does the act of solving the crime redeem the sin of causing it? Or are some mistakes too big to ever be forgiven? I want to know what you think. Is Mills a hero who sacrificed himself for the truth? Or is he a villain who got away with it for too long? Let me know in the comments below. If you believe that victims like Jessie deserve to have their stories told with respect and truth, please subscribe to the channel. We are building a community that shines a light in the dark corners of the world. Thank you for watching.